All right, good evening. My name is Tracy Schultz. I'm the chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. I'm in the meeting of the advisory group, hereby call the meeting to order at, what did you say, 6:03, something like that? 6:02. We are holding this meeting in person at the MDTA Police Building at the Bay Bridge. Attendees should note that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on the BRAG webpage after the meeting for attendees to view and download. Attendees should also note that the recording will include the audio and video from this evening's meeting. Presentations will be available to download from the BRAG webpage. I would ask that anyone in the room with us this evening, please refrain from speaking unless you are presenting or answering questions so that background noise is minimized for those viewing remotely. If members of the public pre-register to comment on a specific agenda item, I will provide you with an opportunity to comment after the agenda item is presented. We appreciate everyone's patience and ask that you hold any comments until the designated time. We ask that you please introduce yourself by giving us your name, community you represent, before moving on with your question or comment. Members of the public joining us via Microsoft Teams will be able to view the meeting only. For security reasons, the chat function in Microsoft Teams is not enabled for MDOT personnel. Any posts entered in the chat window are not visible to staff and will not be responded to. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. For the record, all members present, except for
Steve Wilson and Peter Bradley. We have David Arthur joining us virtually.
Before we move on to our first agenda item, there are some membership updates. In October, we lost an important member of the BRAG with sudden passing of MDTA Executive Director Joey Segal. Although Joey only attended one BRAG meeting in his capacity as a member, he was nonetheless a familiar face at meetings in his previous capacity as an MDTA Chief Operating Officer. Joey was an integral team member of both the MDTA and the MDOT State Highway Administration, spending more than 2 decades as a devoted public servant. His contributions were highly valued and will be missed. On behalf of the BRAG, I extend sincere condolences to his family and friends. With Joey's passing, Percy Dangerfield, Percy, was appointed as the acting MDTA Executive Administrator. Mr. Dangerfield previously served as a Chief Administration Officer for the MDTA. I now turn the floor over to Percy to introduce himself.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Good morning or good evening to the members of the BRAG. As the Chair stated, my name is Percy Dangerfield. I'm the Acting Executive Director for Maryland Transportation Authority. As I was talking to Jack a little earlier, I'm sort of giving him some background. I've been in public service for about 30 years and the transportation sector for about 25 years. I spent some time working at the State Highway Administration, also spent some time working for the Cleveland Airport System, and I've been with MDTA for the last 10 years as Chief Administrative Officer. So I really appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to working with everybody, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And if you have any question or anything as we go along, just kick in and ask questions.
Yes, sir.
Also, welcome Mr. John Foster to the BRAG. Mr. Foster was appointed by the governor in November to replace Barbara Hitchens. Barbara was a consistent BRAG member from the very beginning of the group back in 2005 and has exemplified the goals and objectives of the BRAG throughout her tenure. I'd like to thank her for her many years of dedicated service to the BRAG. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Foster on behalf of the BRAG and now turn the floor over to him for an introduction.
Mr. Chair, thanks so much. Welcome to everybody. Very excited to meet you all. I'm John Foster. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of a company out of Baltimore, Maryland called Fearless. I actually live right down the street here in the Peninsula. My kids go to local elementary schools and middle schools in the area, and we go to Broadneck High School. And my wife is from the Eastern Shore. So all the things that you all have been talking about over the years, we have experienced that as a family. I'm very excited to be a part of the board, and thanks so much for the opportunity to address you all.
You're lucky to have an Eastern Shore woman there too.
Yeah.
For the benefit of Percy and David, could each member of the BRAG please state their name and the community they represent? So we'll start with
Nick Diotis. I live in Queenstown, across the bridge, and I still commute 4 days or so across the bridge, back and forth. I've been here probably since 2013. Committee, yeah.
All right, I'm Tracy Schultz, I'm the chair. I'm from the Eastern Shore. I'm the Canal Volunteer Fire Department for 45 years. So we respond calls on the bridge stuff. And our family has 2 restaurants, Eastern Shore. So we're pretty familiar with the bridge, and when the traffic backs up, it hurts us. Our businesses and stuff, so we try to keep things going as best we can. So, nice being on this committee, a good group of people on here. Appreciate everybody's time.
Jack Broderick, Ken Allen, good old Eastern Shore. I'm involved with a number of different community organizations, and have been part of the BRAG since before we were the BRAG. We were a bunch of ad hoc, angry Ken Allen people saying, man, you gotta do it better. And they tried to asked if we would consider being part of the official BRAG. It's been an honor. It really has. I enjoy working with Barbara. We understand political changes, and we certainly welcome John on here. But we'll miss Barbara. But we've had some really good members over the years, both from the staff and members of the community. And I value being part of this group, and thank you for this opportunity.
So I'm Will Pines. I'm State Highway Administrator for the last 5 months-ish now. Prior to that, I was Executive Director at the Maryland Transportation Authority. So lots of prior Bay Bridge experience. Welcome to both of the new members. I had the opposite experience. I'm from the Eastern Shore, but married a Western Shore girl. Totally the opposite. That she pulled me over here. I followed her, not the other way around. So, but look forward to working with you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynn Farrow. I represent Secretary Paul Wiedefeld on the board. I live in Annapolis. I think that's why I'm here. And I've lived in Annapolis for about the past 20 years. I joined MDOT in February. I worked with Secretary Wiedefeld when he was the director of MAA, which is the Maryland Aviation Administration. And believe it or not, that was 20 years ago. And so I've been gone from state government. I had been gone from state government for 20 years and glad to be back. So, and I do enjoy this board and the work. I'm learning a lot, that's what I'll say.
My name's Jim Moran. I'm the president of Queen Anne's County Commissioners. Just started my 11th year as the at-large commissioner in Queen Anne's County, and all 11 years has been dedicated to this beautiful set of bridges. So, this organization has done more in the last 3 to 4 years than it has prior to. I mean, things are going extremely well. Very proud of being part of this, the BRAG, and I look forward for our, work, the team working together in the future to see what else we can do to help alleviate some of the, the traffic that everybody loves to complain about. So, thank you.
My name is Donald Schloss.
Excuse me, Donald. David's prepared to introduce himself virtually.
He's virtual.
He's virtual. Can you unmute yourself, David?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is David Arthur. I've been a resident of Annapolis, Maryland all my life. Grew up here, have family here. I'm very proud to be part of this board. I've learned so much over the last couple of months. I'm able to press all my friends at parties with the knowledge I've learned about the Bay Bridge. So I'm ahead at parties. So thank you all very much. I'm a frequent visitor to the Eastern Shore. We've been, the beach area has been, I'm a beach goer, so I've been there a lot. My band plays on the Eastern Shore several times, so I appreciate all the work that everybody's done. And just want to extend a welcome to the two new gentlemen. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Mr. Schloss.
My name is still Donald Schloss. I live in the Apple Heights community in Annapolis. And this is my 3rd year being part of BBRAG.
My name is Pat Lynch, and I'm president of the Broadneck Council. And I'm also vice chair of Growth Action Network, which is a countywide advocacy organization where we work very closely with the county on legislation. And I retired from 28 years with the IBM Corporation in 2002, and I haven't had a day off since then. Happy to be with you all. I actually formed the Broadneck Council in 2007 with the objective of fixing the problems with the traffic on Route 50. I only live 2 miles away, so I'm in the thick of it. And so far, I've made a little progress, but not a whole lot. So I'm here for the duration, guys.
All right. So, Mr. Brown is stuck, he's on the line, is he?
No,
Okay, make sure.
Hmm.
David joins. All right, as a, Barbara was BRAG vice chair, her departure leaves a position vacant. Working with the bylaws, we now vote on a new vice chair. May I please have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Jack Broderick.
Second, vice second. Anyone else?
Accept.
Was it second?
No,
I'll second.
No.
he's second.
Yeah. Okay.
There you have the first and second for Jack Broderick to be vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Sure. Do you anything online? Mr. Arthur?
Mr. Arthur, are you in favor?
Aye. Sorry, couldn't get off mute. Aye.
Thank you.
Let me just make a comment. I do appreciate that. I'll do my best to support Tracy in the BRAG and where we're going. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, guys.
Next, we have agenda items, review of the minutes from the previous meeting held in October. We asked, we sent them out originally, if anyone has any changes. We don't usually get any back. We do a very good job of keeping them straight on those. If there's no changes, I'd like to have a motion to accept as read.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against? Thank you. Next, we have our group agenda item is a requirement of House Bill 56, which is a report on the group's activities since the last meeting and any recommendations they have based on these activities. As for BRAG duties, they are to provide MDTA with an independent, citizen-informed perspective of authorities' operations at Bay Bridge, assess potential concerns about activities at Bay Bridge, educate the public about activity relating to the Bay Bridge, and work with the MDTA to provide pertinent input related to traffic and customer service issues. Would any members like to share their individual educational activities and interactions with the community since the last meeting? Nick, I think you've been down a little bit under the weather, so.
I continue to have, online with different people and different discussions and different, neighborhood groups now. It's kind of getting a very extensive, system and like Ken Island, different neighborhoods with, their own website or their own, their, what they call it, Facebook site. Yeah. And it's very interesting what goes on there. But the biggest thing I hear now is everybody's talking about westbound back. The westbound backups, that seems to be the eastbound is accepted now, it's expected. The question is how many miles? And the westbound is just catching people by surprise. And it's obviously a problem for emergency services, which you know firsthand, not to mention for business owners and try to do a little business on the weekends. So, and even the, well, then the other day we had that terrible accident down by, Pippin Farm Lane and, that was Queenstown. The Route 50 was closed for what, 4 hours? Both ways, both directions. You can imagine what that was like. The people were routing through the side streets of, Denton, well, not to Denton, but off of 404, they try to get over 301. It was quite a mess for there for a while. But, these are the things we have. And just got to do the best of it. Certainly, Melissa gets out a lot of information on the internet. So you want to know if the bridge is backed up, Melissa will let you know. She's there before the cars get there. So,
All right.
that's what I have to say.
I just went to the meeting they had for the Main Street. They're trying to, do some, I guess, alterations to Main Street and to increase capacity, I guess what they're trying to do there. Casamina Road to Petton Aires, adding shoulders and stuff. It really doesn't have to do with the bridge, but it will, with backups, it helps, should help some, hopefully, because traffic through there. So I think that meeting is pretty much what I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at that same meeting, at SHA meeting at fire department a couple weeks ago. Looking at, as Tracy said, road improvements. But what I heard from that was almost a little cynical from a number of folks in that, you know, all these guys are doing is showing us what we already know, documented the problems. And what we're looking for is solutions. So I just pass that on. Is folks are obviously highly interested, as Tracy and Nick have said, and looking for solutions. And you know, they're hard to come by. But the meeting, I think, was helpful. But we just, you know, we need to continue to do that kind of public stuff. I've heard a lot. I continue to hear a lot of feedback on, you know, number one, the darn westbound backup and what we can do. And it always, you know, Jamie and I were talking about it before. It always seems like, you know, grass is greener on the other side, you know. The eastbound end is backed up as bad as westbound, but I know it's a judgment call. And what I appreciate is the openness and the approachability you got, Richard, and when you were there, and Jamie, you know, there's a dialogue, and I get hit with a lot of stuff from a lot of people around the island. And I'm able to share what's really going on. And I think because people understand that I might have some insight, they keep hitting me with stuff. There's a limit to that, believe me, and that's when I make a phone call. There's continuing concern about the tier 2 study and where the heck it's going to cross Kent Island and what the impact is going to be. I got a call the other day, and we were talking before about one of the contractors working on this community outreach, and have offered to help set up any meetings or open this at any local events, and that's an offer that really goes without saying. The issue that I know you guys will, and Jim, you got the you know, the ramp closure issue, what we're going to do next year. I hear two sides of that. One, there are folks that are saying, well, you know, at least they're trying something. It may not have worked, but at least it's an effort to try something. It's very different than what we have on the Western Shore going east. But backing up all the traffic down Route 8, I've heard more stuff about, and that's documented in the minutes. So last time around, you know, keep working on it. I mean, that's the best I can say. It's a tough one, and involve local people. But I wish I could say more, but you know, we're trying out there, and as much as I can be helpful to you guys, so I really want to do it.
I can respond to a couple of things there,
Yeah,
if it helps. So on the Route 18 study, like many of the conversations we've had about studies, a lot of times the way that folks would like for it to work is that we say what the outcomes would look like, and then they get to respond to that.
Yeah.
But then that raises the criticism that we came up with the outcomes without getting the input on what the output should be.
Okay.
And that just can't be how we work, right? We have to lay out the problems, talk about possible solutions around the problems, and sort of work our way up to alternatives analysis and the normal study process. So we go through that a lot, where on the one hand, there are folks that want us to be further along in the study than where we are. And the flip side of that is, if we ever did anything that was too far along, then we get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So we are where we are on 18. The study process is going to continue, and that's going to be fully public and available to comment let us know the thoughts there. And eventually that will lead to alternatives that are presented that the public would then be able to comment on. But we gotta do that methodically, like we do all studies, and, you know, it's a process. So in terms of the rent management pilot, I'm gonna talk more about that when I get into the project updates. But we've definitely heard the feedback. We've had some postmortem debriefings with the county, and we've done a traffic analysis that we're gonna meet with them this month to kind of talk about that further. And we expect to have further public discussion on it. So we kind of said that all along, that there'd be more public dialogue about the rent management process. Unfortunately, the Western Shore turned out to be easier than the Eastern Shore. But you know, in the vein of the keep working at it, I think one of the reasons that it took us as long as it did to try something is that many of the concepts that have been thrown out there, tolling for everybody except for locals, closing the entrance ramps, you know, you've heard it all here multiple times. Those options are not legal, and we've been through that. We got federal highway letters that we provided to the group. So within the legal framework, we've done an option that is legal, but it's challenging. So we're gonna talk about what mitigation measures we might be able to do, but I'll talk more about it. I don't know if Jim wanted to add anything further to that, his perspective.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
There's one question on Main Street project, because that, you're looking to study now, how long would it be for funding to be available once it's, that's something that's
Gosh, that's
years.
the hardest
That's
question
something
you
that
can ask me.
well, it's not, fund is not really available to.
No, yeah, we're not funded beyond the study phase.
Right, so, okay, yeah. For sure.
Well, yeah, I'll wait to hear, once you make your updates, we'll conversation about that. But, you know, the ramp study, some people said it was a total failure. Some people said that they could see some change, but, you know, again, it was the perfect storm with a, you know, massive accident on the bridge. But, you know, I think we're gonna tiptoe back out into that pond again this comes springtime and summer and try it again. So looking forward to seeing much better results. You know, the Main Street study, we're happy to see that. It's the beginning of something. So, I'm realistic about it. You know, we know the funding is a huge issue for the next 3 or 4 years. So, you know, things aren't gonna happen as quickly as we hope. I just hope and pray that we can maintain the status on the phase 2 of the NEPA, get to the end of phase 2 of the NEPA and move on from there. And while protecting MDTA's toll monies to keep it with the toll, with the bridges. So, you know, I look forward to, you know, helping any way I can with that. We have our legislators in Annapolis. Hopefully soon we'll be introducing some legislation on the red X's cameras so that we can, you know, that's the biggest complaint that we hear is when traffic does get backed up. Everybody just jumps in the red X lane and just rides it all the way down and, you know, people lose their mind over that stuff. So, you know, anything we can do to stop that and it makes the MDTA some money in the meantime, that's never a bad thing. So, you know, a lot is happening, and hopefully more will come about from our legislators with that, and we'll have to wait and see where that takes us.
After every meeting, I run off some copies of the proceedings, distribute them to my neighbors. We always have a discussion of what transpired. And I also take them to my poker buddies. They're always asking. Pretty much it.
Come to Arthur. So you have anything he wants to?
He can hear you.
No, I'm good, thank you. Nothing on my end, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Because of my heading up, different board positions on the Broadneck Council and Growth Action Network, we reach about 10,000 individuals. Cape St. Clair is a member of my board, and so that's a city in itself. And then a Growth Action Network, we reach about 20,000, very active and comprehensive. Wherever I am, I'm always the head of the transportation committee, so I can always talk about what you're doing here. So we have meetings, newsletters. I always have a section on transportation. I want to say thank you for what you all did on those ramps. There may have been some negatives probably on the Eastern Shore, but I have walked into meetings where people have run up to me and said, thank you so much for what, you all have done in taking care of exit 30 and 32. And it made life so much easier. I know myself, I dread the summer weekends. And it was so much easier for me going across, to Cape St. Clair. I take St. Margaret's Road and Cape St. Clair. So it was a winner for us. I thought there's not much we can do. As I said, I've been here how many years? Since 07, I think I started. Anyway, nothing, there's only so much we can do until we get a new span and we know where it is, and we're all waiting for that. But it was a little step and it worked for us. Thank you.
John's new first meeting, but everything we talk about in here, nice people bring back from the meetings they have, they incorporate that into the yearly, report that we have to the governor. We have to submit a report to the governor, what we've been going through, so take all the minutes and all the stuff we bring back, what we've been doing, and put that into part of the report. So any meetings you have or anything, talk to anybody, just feel free to.
Yeah, I figured this question was gonna come up, so I did come a little bit prepared. Much like Pat, a lot of the folks that I interact with are on the peninsula, so fixing the ramp situation has been, a tremendous blessing to everybody up and down College Parkway. So thank you so much for that. And I'll continue to learn things. I don't want to backtrack on things you already talked about or excuse they already, planning to go through. So I'll just keep my mouth shut and just listen through.
Okay. All right, our next agenda item is some updates on current projects from MDTA Chief Engineer Jim Hartness and MDOT SHA Administrator Will Pines. Oh, he's going to go first. Doesn't matter to me.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Harkness. I'm the Chief Engineer for the Maryland Transportation Authority. Tonight, I'll be going over our updates on the projects on the Bay Bridge. I also have a little information requested at the last meeting on traffic patterns, correlation with crash patterns, as well as an update on our dehumidification project from a couple of years ago. But first we'll start with the current projects. Let's see. Okay, thanks. First project is BB 3013. That is our on-call repairs and miscellaneous modifications contract. Again, this is a task order based contract to perform repairs on steel, concrete, anything miscellaneous that is found during our inspection program. This contract currently has 43 task orders with the contractor, and we have completed 41 task orders to date. This project, it will be followed up by a subsequent project on here that's in design. This is like the cyclical contracts that we put out to maintain the bridges we have. Moving on to the next project, it is BB 3012, a queue detection system. So again, this is a project we are working on with our partners at SHA and at the University of Maryland's CAT Lab. The project was to develop a queue warning and travel time system that our operations team can utilize. It will tell them how long, measure the length of traffic queues, measure the vehicles approaching the bridge from both directions, and therefore figure out the delays on each side of the bridge.
That project is in basically two phases. So the first phase is essentially wrapped up with only a little bit of the CCTV camera work remaining. That should be done here this spring. The CAT lab has delivered on the first portion of the software for our operators to be able to view the data that's coming in from the roadway. Now we are working with them to kind of get phase 2 underway, which will take their algorithm that they developed, the software, and put a predictive feature in that where they're taking the data that our sensors are seeing on the roadway and kind of trying to anticipate what the queues will look like a certain period of time in the future so that we can be proactive instead of reactive. So that's that project. Moving on to the next one, BB 3017. That's our eastbound deck replacement, phase 1, package 1. So again, this is the project that will be replacing the deck between the main span, the main suspension span, and the through truss span on the eastbound bridge. We're also upgrading the barrier. We are kind of doing some structural repairs while we're there, replacing the signal gantries that hold the lane use control signals, and doing utility relocations. Currently, we have stair towers and truss platforms out there on the bridge. Those are being moved as, they're being constructed and deconstructed as necessary and moved to different sections of the bridge wherever the work's going. We started in T22, which is the furthest from where we are here. We're working this way. So that's all underneath the bridge. You don't see much other than the booms on the cranes. But we are started in 22 and we're now starting work in 19. So there's different various phases of work in each of those truss sections. But we are doing truss strengthening. So we finished the first section. We're in the second section, truss strengthening. Got the barrier bearings all installed in the first section, moving the barriers in the second section. And so we are really, essentially ramping up to where we're getting ready to do the major panel work. So we have a casting yard in Curtis Bay that was completely set up. They started casting some panels out there. And so those panels are going through the curing and testing process right now. Additionally, while that's happening, we have a stormwater management pond that has started work. And so essentially with all this happening, it looks like the deck panel replacement should be ready by early February of this year. Yep. So we'll be starting that this year. We have a little video to show you at the end of my talk here. So we'll be putting that out as part of our outreach plan. Get folks ready for this. Again, all goes according to plan. It all happens overnight. No one's any the wiser that we got in and out while everybody or most people were asleep.
Jim, if I could comment, it sounds so just bizarre, cutting out pieces of the bridge, lifting them out, putting it back in. But when that happened, and I know I've said this before, on the westbound span was 156 panels were replaced. The very first one was a screw up. Everything else worked perfectly. The system works, even though it just seems counterintuitive. So we're hoping same success happens, man.
Yeah. And that's what we're making sure, we did a different type of procurement process, working with the contractor to try to, try to do the best we can to guarantee these things. We've worked hard to minimize impacts, in terms of, the different, the bump that you may have while we're replacing panels out there. So we think we have a good design that should minimize that. But things happen. So we're even trying to plan for contingencies should something kind of happen in the middle of one of these replacements. So we have a plan together, and we're, it's coming together, and we're anxious to get to February and see what we can do. We're all rooting for you. All right, so with that, we'll go on to fourth project there, BB 3021. Again, I mentioned this earlier, this is the replacement or the follow-up contract. It's another on-call structural repair, so it's just a continuation essentially of the first project that I went over. The schedule on this one is that we would be sending it to our procurement folks this month with an advertisement of the contract this spring, and hoping to, get a contractor on board to start by the fall of this year. And my last project is BB 3004. That's the maintenance equipment storage building. So talked last time about how we kind of rescoped this. So we held a design coordination meeting to kind of go over the revised scope. We had a follow-up meeting on the water line that we're having to get down to the site down there. So the schedule on this one is about, we have to re-permit it, rework the design. So 12 to 15 months for that, go through the procurement. We're looking at taking bids in fall of 25 on that project, with construction starting 2 years from this point. So that's that project. So kind of getting off of the contracts, the projects, but one of the items we talked about last time at our meeting in October was just looking at the volume trends up on the bridge. So volumes for this past summer, June, July, August, were up by more than 3% as compared to 22. So we saw about 3% more volume for those over those 3 months on average. So then we wanted to look at what did that mean in terms of crashes. So the crash rate, which is essentially a way to normalize crash numbers, the crash rate was down for 23 compared to 22 and even 21. So we saw a lower crash rate. So that means for the number of crashes, for the number of vehicles we saw a decrease in that. So we saw less crashes out there. The types of crashes we were seeing, rear ends, essentially stayed the same. So no change in rear end crashes. Fixed objects went up slightly. It's not a big number, but we put gates in the roadway and they get hit. So we've, that alone has kind of driven that number, up from where it was in prior years. And then sideswipe crashes were down, and that's where we saw a reduction in those types of crashes. Just kind of framing, where we saw the highest crashes. August was the highest month of the 3 months for crashes. Wednesdays were the day with the lowest crashes. And you can probably guess, but Saturdays, Sundays had the highest number of crashes, right? Highest volumes, but have the highest numbers. And then, some of the common factors for the crashes out on the bridge is the failure to give your full attention. That may be distracted driving, but it's also other things, and then following too closely. So it's just kind of a brief summary on, some of the crash rate and how that ties to the volumes that we saw out there. Yes.
Do you have any idea why we've improved on that accident rate?
Well, we were under construction with those
Yeah, the
projects
cleanup.
on each side, right? So we removed the toll plaza. And then we did the projects for the automated lane closure system. So we were kind of more in a heavy construction for those 2 years. So typically, you might see that, see an improvement.
I would think just moving the toll area.
Exactly.
That
alone, we've seen a good
Sure.
crashes. If you look just at, so this was looking at the entire stretch of the bridge, not the bridge itself, but also the approaches there that we have. So it was looking at everything. But if you look just at the toll plaza area, it's a very steep improvement in safety at the whole toll plaza area.
Mr. Arthur has his hand up online.
Okay.
Good afternoon. First, I want to apologize for not being there in person. I found out this morning that a family member I was with this weekend came down with COVID, so I just want to be safe to sorry and not impact anybody else. So my apologies for not being there. My question is around the queue detection system. I'm going to assume that sort of the algorithm based on some sort of AI formula. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there was a little bit of some, that we did kind of a neural network development, with some deep learning on the data that was available. And so that's how we had a phase one that was able to produce a system for us. But that was based on historic data. And as I said, we don't want to be reactive. We wanted to try to create the goal of this project was to create something that was proactive, to sort of project conditions before they come so we can make better decisions and timely decisions. And so now that's phase two. We'll take the data that we're collecting on the roadway in real time or near real time and feed it into the model, AI model or deep learning, and then churn out hopefully actionable data or information for us.
And I guess my question is, with like most AI system, it has a learning curve. It's got to learn the patterns in order to provide some valuable information. Do you have a estimate on how long it will take to, become, I don't say sentient, we don't want that, but to be able to provide valuable information?
Well, the benefit of kind of the phase one was that it took historic data. It was just the data that it was using was limited. It wasn't a full data set. It was from a traffic data provider that uses probe vehicle data. So it's not the entire volume of vehicles that you would be getting your data from. It's a limited data set. So, but we were able to seed it with that. And so it has years of data there. And then what we'll be able to do is bring on the real-time data and hopefully really shorten that curve.
Well, marry it with the legacy data. All right, cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you plan on making any of that data like consumer facing, consumable?
I gotta, not sure if that, so like a lot of our data is available, public facing, through our SHA chart, partners. And I would have to double check, but that data may be out there. It's essentially radar, on the side of the road, side fire radar, that just collects, information about speed and occupancy and volume.
Further question?
All right, well, and then so,
Video?
yeah, I would be going into the presentation that I have for that you have in front of you, in your materials. It's on the humidification project. It's just it's sort of figure out when we got an update, but sort of a brief review of the materials for this project. So we have a project, well, basically a decade ago already, that installed a dehumidification system on the suspension cables for both bridges. And so this cable dehumidification system was the first one installed in North America, was here at the bridge. It was installed in Europe, but it was the first one in North America. There are several other bridge owners that have either installed a similar system or are currently installing it. So as you can see, it was February of 14, so just under a decade ago, where the first one was commissioned on, that's on the westbound bridge or the north bridge. And then over a year later, the southbound bridge. And as I said, nearly a decade of operation at this point. So next slide, show. So the purpose of the system, obviously, dehumidification, we're removing water. So within the cable system of the suspension span, water gets trapped in those cables, those steel cables. And so we want to get rid of that. We want to eliminate that water or lower that percentage of humidity in order to preserve those cables longer. So we want protect them. Obviously, the bridges, eastbound bridge or the south bridge opened in 1952, westbound in 73. So they were out there a while with this water in them. We wanted to arrest further corrosion if we could by removing the moisture from the cables. You can see in the one diagram there, sort of the progression of the steel cable bands with exposure to the water and the resulting corrosion. In this graph, essentially, it's kind of showing you what happens with the relative humidity and how the rate of corrosion is related to that. So, 60%, 40%, but we want to optimally be at around 40% on that relative humidity number with this system. Next slide. So this is sort of a quick diagram and a walkthrough of it, but the first step is to create that dry air. So we have a plant room or a couple of plant rooms actually. So plant room, create the dry air. We have piping that takes it up to various locations along the cables. There's an injection sleeve, so the dry air is pumped in, which then forces the moist air out to areas where we have exhaust sleeves then, and then the moist air is exited from the cable system. Next slide. Okay, these are just photos of those items there, those components of the system. So the plant room up on the upper left there is again where we're making the dry air with these, and then we have the injection fans to push the air up into the dry air pipes, which are delivering the air to those injection sleeves there that you see. What you can kind of see on those next to the injection sleeves is like that gray wrap. That's what keeps it airtight. In the center on the bottom here, we have the exhaust sleeve. So that box you see here is actually the sensors. And then from that, it just exhausts out to atmosphere. Okay, so those sensors that I mentioned allow us to have an interface where we're able to sort of monitor the system performance. So we've been doing monthly, quarterly, annual maintenance visits on different parts of the system. We're able to remotely monitor the system and be able to kind of chart that performance of the system. Next slide. So system, some of the reports that came out of there, essentially on the vertical axis, we're measuring the relative humidity, again, that we were concerned about. And then it's just plotted it over time. And these plots were from back in, on the left, 2014 it started, and on the right are 2015. Essentially, the reason that we're showing that is because the real action in the system happened at commissioning. So you can see there was high relative humidity up there near 90%, and kicked it on, and on the westbound bridge, within 9 to 12 months, we were down to 40% area where we wanted to be. And on the eastbound bridge, just 2 months, and we got down to where we wanted to be. And pretty much the system has been holding us steady ever since. Next slide. I think this is for a view of the westbound bridge. Westbound bridge, obviously, there's 2 cables, so the colors represent the 2 different cables on the westbound bridge. But you can see this is now, instead of relative humidity, now we have the gallons of water on the vertical axis there, and over time. And so in the first year, it was like 2.5 gallons a day were coming out of the cables. And then since then it dropped to, 1 or a half gallon a day. So Next slide, Charles. So again, you can kind of see the wrapping on the system there, the joints. We have had some intermittent interruptions with systems up running time, and we're 10 years in. So we noticed we have some short-term needs and improvements that we can perform in order to keep the runtime up. But then we also have long-term needs to upgrade the system components and extend the life of the system. So, there's a kind of notes here, even when we do hit those periods where the system kind of, goes down, that high quality wrap that they were able to install really does a good job of keeping that moisture out of there. So when it gets back on, the relative humidity hasn't climbed that much. Overall, it's been a great system. It was a great project, and we're proud to have it. So that's
What's,
update on that.
I notice going over the bridge every day. What is the bottom little clamshell portion on the cables? Is that for blast protection or something? Is that a safety device? It seems like there's it's almost, and I was hoping you had a picture of it. At the main span where the cable dips back down, there's, I'd say from 100 yards going down and then coming back up, there's an actual additional piece that was put on the bottom of the cables.
Armor.
Oh, it's shearing. It is. That's what I thought. So if there's a fire or something to help protect the cables.
Gotcha.
And on the deck replacement, are you saying that some of the panels have been poured?
Yes.
I know that I know you've had the, what do you call it, where the panels are set, then you pour in between the panels?
Closure pores.
Excuse me?
Closure pores?
Well, the mix design you're using for that?
Yeah.
I thought that was what was poured and tested, not an existing panel that's gonna be in. As far as I understand, there's no panels that have been poured that are gonna be brought out here and put into place yet.
No, we have four.
Okay, good. That's good.
How
That's
long
good
was
news.
Like 30 feet.
30 feet wide, width of the bridge.
With the bridge.
On the whole.
That's a good sign. Nobody knows that. 30%.
Yeah, with that teaser, we have a draft first run of the video that I'm going to put on the web that we wanted to show the BRAG. As we start rolling out.
Beginning winter 2023 and 2024, the Maryland Transportation Authority will begin the first section of Phase 1 of the eastbound deck replacement of the Bay Bridge. Some areas of the deck are nearly 50 years old and have reached the end of their service life. The MDTA has designed a construction solution to limit traffic impacts while maximizing safety for our contractors and customers. During regular overnight bridge closures, portions of the bridge deck will be removed via cranes from the water. Then the cranes will install new deck panels that have been manufactured off-site and barged in. Two-way traffic will operate on the westbound bridge during overnight work, and the eastbound bridge will reopen in time for morning commuters. Crews will then utilize off-peak lane closures during the day to get work areas ready for successful night shifts. Your safety is always the MDTA's priority. Please pay attention to the road ahead and obey overhead lane use signals at all times. And remember to always drive and boat safely in work zones. Learn more at baybridge.com.
Good.
That's a draft version, so as soon as we get the final version, I'll share that with everyone.
Beginning with
Moving right along. Real quick update.
He asked me if I was going ahead of you and I said ladies first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just finishing out for MDTA. Hey, just wanted to give a real quick update on the Bay Crossing study, Tier 2 NEPA. A lot of ongoing work.
What are we gonna do? John's new.
Bay Crossing study, Tier 2 NEPA. is I'm sorry, NEPA's National Environmental Policy Act. Basically, that's the study that we're doing, looking at a potential new crossing of the bridge. Okay.
Your name too.
You all know.
I'm just gonna start over. I'm sorry, my name is Melissa Williams. I'm the Director of Planning and Program Development at MDTA. I'm also working on the project, which is the National Environmental Policy Act Bay Crossing Study, Tier 2 National Environmental Policy Act study. We're looking at a new crossing of the bridge. I'll pop offline. But we're gonna talk about the website, because that's where you're gonna get a good bunch of the information that you'll want to see to kind of catch up with us. But just wanted to give a quick update on where we are. We have a lot of ongoing work right now. Environmental field studies, ongoing. Coordination with state and federal environmental and resource agencies, again, ongoing. We're still working on traffic. As you know, we did our counts last year in 2023, summer and fall 2023. Looking at our existing conditions, we're looking at analyzing the traffic that we collected, including looking at queue lengths as well as duration of those queue lengths. And looking at not just our peak periods, but at 24 hours a day. We're looking at the different traffic patterns that we had. As far as our projected traffic, which will be the year 2045, our no-build conditions, we are looking at forecasting the traffic volumes and also forecasting the traffic operations. Again, looking at the queue lengths, durations projected for in the future. One of my favorite things, we are also looking at our origins and destinations, working with reconciling that information with the vendor we're using, which is called Streetlight, and ensuring that we have good data and that we have a good feeling for where vehicles are coming from and going to. Our next steps will include forecasting volumes for 2045 build conditions. So as we begin developing alternatives, which is where we are right now, developing actual lines on paper for where a crossing might be, we will then be projecting traffic volumes for those different alternatives. Development of alternatives is a big effort, part of what we're working on right now. A little bit of a precursor, we will be sharing those alternatives and showing those lines on paper late summer, early fall of 2024. I almost said next year, of this year. We will be sharing that information with the public. So a little bit backwards, a little bit forwards. The backwards is, remember, we had those public meetings in September of 2023. Well, we have our summary from those meetings, our summary of public comment and public input from those meetings, the 2 in person and 1 online meeting. That's good information for you to catch up with. Our website is baycrossingstudy.com. And just wanted to point out a couple of highlights about that study, about the comment summary. I really encourage you folks to go to the website and take a look at the comment summary. It's 56 pages. Don't be intimidated. Lots of graphs, charts, things like that. It's a quick read. But we did get 611 individual pieces of input from folks, individual people commenting. So that's great. We were really happy with the interaction that we had. Just wanted to point out some of the questions, some of the data that I thought was interesting. Our very first question was, what's your zip code? Which doesn't seem like a very interesting question, but what it showed us was we had a good, I'm gonna say like almost 33%, like a third was Anne Arundel, a third was Queen Anne, and a third was other. So I thought that was really good. We got a great distribution of folks responding. So that's always one of the concerns is, do we have skewed data? But it showed that we had a really good cross-section of individuals. Looking at why we're doing this study, people really agreed that the most important need is adequate capacity and having reliable travel times. So I feel like the folks that we reach, we're on the same page. We're looking for solutions to the same problem. How often do you cross the bridge? This one I thought was interesting. We had a really good mix of people from daily, weekly, monthly, infrequently. So I feel like we got a full range of input from your daily commuter to your seasonal travel, your summer traveler.
So that was interesting. Again, that just shows that we got a really good range of information. Pat, you're gonna want to hear this one. Do you use local roads to avoid congestion on US 5301?
Yes.
Guess what percent of people said yes? 60%. So Pat, you tell us this all the time, and folks tell us this all the time, but it was confirmed, 60% of the people said, yep, I do it.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of interesting and telling, you know. Whole bunch of other information, a whole bunch of other data. Like I said, it's 56 pages long, but it's a really quick read. It's good information. There are questions about transit. There are questions about bicycle pedestrian access. Would you use it? Wouldn't you use it? Why would you use it? Lots of really good questions. And I think the input that people gave is very interesting and helps us, like I said, based on the cross-section of individuals that we got. I think we got really good input that helps give us the full picture of input in the study area and beyond the study area. So again, baycrossingstudy.com survey summary, please review. Homework item number 2, if anyone would like us to attend a community group to discuss the project, give a project briefing, Pat, let us know. Anybody else, let us know. We're always available to come out and talk to you. There are certain times of the year or throughout the project that are really good for us to come out to the public, and having just had a public meeting in September and having some good fresh data and information to share, we're really happy to come out. This is a great time for us to come out. Come late summer when we're preparing for another public meeting is not as good of a time. So this is really a great time for us to come out. John, as I said, we will talk offline, but I would suggest that you take a look at our website. There's a lot of good information there. One of the keys is making sure that we are hearing the public and hearing what people have to say and input from a good cross section. And I'm really happy with these survey results. I feel like we are achieving that goal throughout the project. We are looking at 2 things, equity, but equity in our process as well as in our project delivery and in the project itself. And we're really focusing on our process right now. And that's where we're looking to make sure we're reaching all of the communities. So really happy with what we have so far and hoping to continue.
Very good, thank you.
All right. The better looking, I would female now that the better looking, you're actually, wait, you did age before beauty.
Well, again, for the record, I'm Will Pine, State Highway Administrator. I got a couple of updates since the last meeting. I want to thank Terry for covering for me at the last meeting. I wasn't able to be here. She's our Deputy Administrator and will likely be my backup or answer any questions that I can today. But
Good job, while you're not gonna be here.
I know.
Very good.
I just had another conflict with another meeting that evening, so sorry I wasn't able to make it. But 2 updates on ongoing signal projects. One at Maryland 178 at Pleasant Plains. We temporarily had a pause in the construction there that was associated with resolving some questions from a property owner near the signal. We worked through that now, and we're expecting that construction will resume in the next couple of weeks, which we anticipate being able to have that signal done by prior to the start of the summer. And then Maryland 179 Bush Frontage Road, the design is underway for that with the goal, again, of having the signal fully operational prior to the Memorial Day weekend. And as you're thinking about it, that's the signal that has the flashing red and 4-way stop there. We're converting that to a fully signalized intersection to help deal with the ramp management, additional volume coming through that intersection. We have started looking at resurfacing Whitehall Road and East College Parkway, but the timing of the resurfacing will be dependent on available funding. At this point, we don't have funding to do it. And that's largely because it is considered a local, even though it's owned by State Highway, it's a local road that does not qualify for federal funding. So it does rely on state money, and that is the hardest money to get right now. So we know we have been evaluating the need and are looking to figure out when we can program that. In terms of the ramp management pilots or the programs that we've had on the 2 shores, starting on the western shore, we expect to resume that again this year. will likely start about 2 weeks prior to Memorial Day. That is when we also start our normal ESTO system where we internally ramp up to get ready for the summer season. Approximately for the first month of the ramp pilot, we're going to try this year to make an adjustment to where we leave exit 30 open. We did attend the Broadneck Council meeting and got some feedback that there was possibly that wasn't a desirable scheme. We think that obviously a lot of whether or not the ramp management system is effective is whether or not the apps, Waze, Google are diverting folks onto the local roads. We think that by closing exit 31 permanently and 32 on those weekend closures on Fridays and Saturdays, that we will be able to get most of the traffic to stay off of the local roads consistent with how it has been. However, we heard the feedback loud and clear that if that isn't successful and folks are utilizing Whitehall and getting off, trying to use that left at exit 30, and then that backs up from locals being able to get through, that we're going to be prepared to adjust. We're going to try it for a month, see if it works. That will allow us to utilize less resources. This is a very resource intensive operation for us. We have a lot of folks coming in with trucks and people that sit there for an entire weekend. They're not accomplishing mowing, they're not accomplishing litter removal, they're not accomplishing all of the other things that folks want us to do, and instead are sitting there watching what typically at this point is empty roadways. So we want to try to see if we can scale back on how intensive those operations are, see if they are still effective. If they're not, we'll make the audible and make the adjustment to resume that closure of 30. But so likely for that, the first several weekends, we're going to try to just close exit 32, with 31 being permanently closed, and we'll do that on Fridays and Saturday mornings. That will remain in place. We expect similarly to last year, it'll be unmanned over the evenings. However, we do leave the closures up with the signing and everything overnight because of the amount of time that it takes to deploy all of that. It's just easier to uncover and resume that. So that is the plan for the Western Shore. For the Eastern Shore, as I mentioned earlier, we did do a traffic study that correlated with the temporary periods that we did last year. We have provided that study to the county. We plan to meet with them in February to review that. Based on the findings from that traffic information, we will plan to have some public engagement, likely resuming some form of the ramp management pilot. We did, kind of as was mentioned here, we did get some negative feedback and positive feedback, both sides of it. The majority of the positive feedback seemed to be more from residents on the kind of to the eastern side and along 18 that are most impacted by the 18 traffic. The residents that tended to be on Route 8, down Route 8 and kind of especially, I guess that's on the southern side there, they tended to feel more negatively about it. So we're going to review that, kind of talk about how to balance that out, but likely will anticipate having some kind of similar ramp management pilot to what was done last year. There were discussions about extending that much further back. That would be to the detriment of those Route 8 users. So we think that doing a lot of different ramp pilot options is probably not likely. But we'll make sure we flush that out with the county and then with the public a little further.
Yeah, there were some questions about Northern Drummond, getting people leaving to go to the Eastern Shore, having to go all the way up and come back. Is there a way to address that?
Yeah, on the Western Shore, I didn't say that overtly, but one of the things last year we had done Thursdays and Fridays. So we're expecting to coordinate with Northrop Grumman, no longer do Thursdays, just do Fridays and Saturdays, and that would allow them to have their folks telework on Fridays and have the other day to be able to kind of use their more normal commute. So on the western shore, we got a little bit of negative feedback from a few businesses. Some of the county council had relayed that feedback to us. And then north of Drummond, but generally it was a lot more positive on the western shore than negative. So we're really just looking at primarily the same operation, scaled back a little bit, kind of trying to balance the positive and negative feedback that we're getting to see. It's really kind of the same thing. At some point, we'll probably stop calling a pilot and say that this is something we're going to do more regularly. But we want to sort of play with the hours. We know that like Thursdays, accommodating north of Drummond, there will certainly be some Thursdays, holiday weekends where the Thursday may still be problematic. One of the things that we've seen with the ramp pilots is we have to coordinate with the apps ahead of time for them to efficiently close it. It's not a thing where we can just close it and it automatically shows up. So we can't make an audible all the time. We have to plan ahead and announce it and do the coordination up front for it to be effective. But when we do that, then they do actually publicly show that the ramps are closed. But we can't trick them out either. The second that thing reopens and they see the Bluetooth start driving the ramp, it's over and they'll show that it's resumed.
So you're not going to close the ramp on Sundays? 32.
Correct. No, look, typically the predominant movement on Sundays is westbound.
Yeah.
So we're expecting to do the pilot or the ramp management on the eastern shore on we'll flip basically Fridays and then into the like Saturday midday, we would do the western shore and then flip over after that point and do the eastern shore Saturday, later day into Sunday on the eastern shore, kind of coinciding with the predominant traffic.
Have we ever done, or yeah, I'm sure you have, looked at the traffic patterns on Thursday versus Friday? Because to me, it seems like, and it always has, that the traffic on 97 headed towards the shore is always heavier on Thursday than it is on Friday. And that was even before the pandemic. So
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak off the top of my head on 97 proper, but we could come to another BRAG meeting and show you sort of the daily volumes, but I think Fridays historically have been the dominant for the movement to folks going to the Eastern Shore. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, next agenda item is unfinished business. So have a recap of the Bay Bridge run. I'll now turn the floor over to Bay Bridge Administrator James Turner.
So good evening, I'm James Turner, I'm your facility administrator here at Bay Bridge. I'll keep this short and sweet. Just a quick summary of 2023 bridge run. It was held on Sunday, November 12th. Overall, it went very well. Turned out to be a successful event. There were just over 15,000 participants that finished the race. We were able to reopen the eastbound bridge and return to normal operations prior to noon that Sunday, and only had minor delays reaching approximately 1 mile each direction. So overall, it went well. Most of the feedback was pretty positive on the event, and we're currently looking at potential dates for next year's run. And we'll of course update the group once we get a date locked in. Thank you.
All right, so we have no items of new business were submitted prior to the meeting, so now open the floor to any member who wishes to bring the new business before the group. We don't have any business being brought forward. So seeing none, we'll move on to public comments. Do we have any public comments? Open the floor to the public. Move on. So next we have our next meeting was scheduled to take place on Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024 at 6 p.m. Now, please have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn. Second. So I move. Thank you all for attending. Not too late.
exactly like that.